Section 1. The perfect anniversary, or so I thought. I remember waking up that morning with a smile. It was my second wedding anniversary, and I wanted everything to be perfect. The sun peeked through the curtains, painting the room in a golden glow, and for a moment, I convinced myself that I was happy. Completely, utterly happy with the life I had built with my husband. I walked into the kitchen and started preparing his favorite breakfast. Scrambled eggs with just the right amount of butter, crispy toast, and freshly brewed coffee. As I plated the meal, I imagined his smile, the same smile that had once made me believe we could conquer the world together. But somewhere deep down, beneath the surface of this picture-perfect morning, there was an emptiness I didn't want to admit. My husband was kind, stable, and responsible. He provided everything a woman could ask for: security, respect, and companionship. Yet passion was missing. Our conversations had grown shorter, our laughter rarer, and our intimacy had turned into routine. Still, I pushed those thoughts away. Today was about celebrating 2 years of marriage, not questioning it. When he walked into the kitchen, he looked pleasantly surprised. "Happy anniversary," he said, kissing my forehead. He handed me a small gift bag, wrapped neatly with a ribbon. Inside was a delicate bracelet, beautiful, simple, and safe, just like him. We both took the day off, deciding to celebrate with dinner at home instead of going out. I decorated the dining table with candles, rose petals, and the soft glow of fairy lights. As I looked around, I felt a wave of pride. This was my home, my marriage, my stability. We laughed lightly over dinner, clinking glasses of wine, reminiscing about our wedding day. For a while, I let myself believe that maybe this was enough. Maybe the flicker of doubt in my heart didn't matter. And then the doorbell rang. It was unexpected. We weren't waiting for anyone, and the sound cut through the romantic atmosphere like a blade. My husband got up to answer, but there was no one there. Just a small box sitting neatly on the doorstep. No card, no name, no explanation. He carried it inside, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "Who could this be from?" he asked, placing it on the table. I hesitated, my heart racing for no reason I could explain. My fingers trembled as I untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a velvet pouch. When I pulled it open, my breath caught in my throat. There, gleaming under the candlelight, was a necklace I hadn't seen in years. A necklace I once gifted to someone I thought I had lost forever. My ex-boyfriend. Froze. Memories rushed back like a flood I couldn't stop. His laughter, his touch, the way he once held me as though the world disappeared when we were together. I hadn't thought of him in months, maybe years. Yet the sight of that necklace shattered the walls I had built around my heart. My husband noticed my pale face. "Do you know who sent this?" he asked, suspicion already creeping into his tone. I shook my head quickly, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Maybe it's just some mix-up. A prank. But deep inside I knew. This wasn't random. This was deliberate. This was him. That night, after my husband fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the necklace. My chest tightened with a mix of guilt and longing. I hadn't thought this day could bring anything more than routine celebration, but now it felt like the start of something I wasn't ready to face. Section 2. The strange gift from the past. I couldn't stop thinking about that necklace. It lay on my nightstand, mocking me with its familiarity. My husband had gone to bed, but I stayed awake, replaying every memory attached to it. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was history. It was love. It was heartbreak. Years ago, when I was with him, my ex, I had saved money from a part-time job to buy it for his birthday. I remember the way his eyes lit up when I clasped it around his neck, the way he promised he would never take it off because it wasn't just a gift, it was a piece of me. Seeing it now, after all this time, sent shivers through me. The small box also contained a folded note. My hand shook as I opened it. The words were short, almost cruel in their simplicity. "Happy anniversary. Remember us." My husband noticed me freeze. "What does it say?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. I quickly crumpled the paper in my fist. "Nothing important. Just some nonsense. I muttered, trying to sound casual. But I knew he wasn't convinced. He studied me for a moment, his jaw tightening before looking away. The atmosphere that had been light and celebratory just hours earlier had turned heavy, suspicious, and tense. Later that night I couldn't bear it anymore. I sat in the living room, staring at my phone, when it buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "I'm back in town. We need to talk." I felt my stomach drop. There was no signature, but I didn't need one. I knew exactly who it was. Memories crashed over me like waves. I thought of the first time we met, how his laughter had been contagious, how he had made me feel alive in ways no one else ever had. And I remembered the heartbreak, the day he left without explanation, disappearing from my life, leaving me broken and vulnerable. When I married my husband, I told myself I was starting fresh, that I had buried the past, locked it away, and thrown away the key. But now, with just one gift and one message, the door I had sealed so tightly had swung wide open. The next morning, my husband confronted me. "You were up all night. Tell me what's going on." I forced a smile, shaking my head. "It's nothing. Just work stress. I'm fine." He didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But he didn't push further. All day, the thought of that message burned inside me. I tried to distract myself, to focus on chores, but my mind kept wandering back to him. The idea that he was back, that he wanted to see me, filled me with both dread and excitement. By evening, I couldn't resist anymore. I typed a simple reply. "Where?" The response came almost immediately. "Tomorrow. Our place." Our place. Two simple words, and suddenly my world shifted. He still remembered. He still cared enough to use the words that once defined us. I put my phone down, my hands trembling. My husband walked into the room at that moment, and I quickly hid the screen. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice heavy with concern. I nodded quickly. "Yes, just tired." But deep inside I knew the truth. I wasn't tired. I was restless, haunted by a past that refused to stay buried, pulled between the safe love of my husband and the dangerous passion of a man who had once owned my heart. And tomorrow I would see him again. Section 3. Between husband and ex-lover. The next day felt endless. Every tick of the clock pushed me closer to the moment I would see him again. I told myself I shouldn't go, that I was a married woman, that meeting him would only lead to trouble. But the truth was, a part of me had been waiting for this moment ever since the necklace arrived. By the time evening came, my nerves were shot. I told my husband I had to run an errand, my voice shaky but believable enough. He gave me a curious look, but didn't ask questions. His silence hurt almost more than suspicion would have, like he had already started to expect disappointment. I drove across town, my heart pounding so loudly it felt like the steering wheel might vibrate from it. And then I saw him, standing by the small cafe we used to meet at, leaning casually against the wall, as if no time had passed. When our eyes met, everything inside me flipped. He hadn't changed much. Maybe a little older, maybe a little rougher around the edges, but his gaze still carried that same intensity that once made me forget the world. We sat inside, across from each other. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We just looked, taking in the years, the distance, the pain. Finally, he broke the silence. "I never stopped thinking about you." His voice was low, heavy with regret. "Leaving was the worst mistake of my life." I swallowed hard. "Then why did you do it?" He explained. Family problems, debts, responsibilities that forced him away. He said he thought disappearing would make it easier for me to move on. But as he spoke, I could see in his eyes that he had been carrying the same ache I had. I should have been angry. I should have walked out. But instead, I felt my heart thawing, melting under the weight of his confession. Hours slipped by as we talked, laughed, even cried. It felt like no time had passed, like we had simply paused and resumed. When he reached across the table and touched my hand, I didn't pull away. That night I went home late. My husband was waiting, his arms crossed, his eyes filled with suspicion. "Where were you?" he demanded. "Out," I answered weakly, avoiding his gaze. Out where? You've been distant since that package came. Don't lie to me. I wanted to scream, to confess everything, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I shook my head and walked past him. His silence followed me like a shadow. But it didn't stop. I met my ex again and again. Each time it got harder to resist. He reminded me of the passion I had been missing, the fire my marriage never had. And one night I gave in completely. It was reckless, dangerous, and wrong. But in his arms I felt alive. The guilt gnawed at me, but the desire was stronger. My husband wasn't blind. He noticed my late nights, my excuses, my distant stares. The tension in our home grew unbearable. He would ask questions I couldn't answer, and I would avoid him, pushing him further away. And through it all, that necklace lay on my dresser, glinting under the light, a cruel reminder of the choice I was making. I was caught between two men, one who gave me stability and one who gave me passion. And every day, I was slipping deeper into a web of lies I knew couldn't hold forever. Section 4. The breaking point. It didn't take long for the truth to catch up with me. One evening, after another secret meeting with my ex, I came home to find my husband sitting in the dark living room. His phone was in his hand, the screen glowing faintly. On it were messages. My messages, the ones I thought I had deleted. "I followed you today," he said quietly, his voice trembling with fury and pain. "I know." My chest tightened, panic rushing through me. "Please, it's not what you think. Not what I think." His voice rose, echoing in the room. "You've been lying to me. Cheating on me. On our anniversary, no less." Tears filled my eyes. "I didn't mean for this to happen. You just what? Needed excitement. Needed him." His words cut deeper than any blade. I tried to explain, but everything I said sounded hollow, even to me. The truth was, I had betrayed him. There was no excuse strong enough to erase what I had done. He stood, his hands shaking. "I gave you everything. I trusted you. And you threw it all away for a man who left you once before." The room was spinning. I reached for him, but he stepped back. "Don't touch me," he snapped. In that moment I knew it was over. He packed a small bag that night, his movements sharp and final. Before leaving, he paused at the door, his eyes burning into mine. "I hope he's worth losing everything for." And then he was gone. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, the weight of my choices crushing me. My ex arrived later, trying to comfort me, telling me we could finally be together. But instead of joy, I felt hollow. The marriage I had built, the stability I once valued, was shattered. The strange gift, the necklace, had been the trigger. A simple object that carried the power to unravel my entire life. I thought it was a symbol of love, but in the end, it was a weapon of destruction. Now, whenever I see it, I don't feel passion or nostalgia. I feel guilt, regret, and loss. My husband was right. Love built on betrayal cannot last. I ended up with the man I once thought I wanted, but the cost was too high. Instead of happiness, I was left with questions. Would he leave again? Could I ever truly trust him? Or was I simply clinging to a past that should have stayed buried? The anniversary that should have been a celebration became the day everything fell apart. And as I look back, I realize, sometimes the past doesn't just knock on your door, it tears it down. And once it's inside, nothing is ever the same again.